feel free to listen in. I'd love to have you listening in. Okay, apparently it was self-resolved. Just so you know, I do have a full recording with audio coming straight out of the mic and video. So if you want the recording of this later on, it's going to be there later on. We'll do questions at different points. We'll see what happens. But we do have to start things off with one thing. Does anybody have a lighter? There's my man. And what is my lighter's name? Brock? Rob, can I borrow that lighter for a little bit? Excellent. All right. Hazardous Brew, coffee creamer and fireball, or coffee creamer fireballs. It's good stuff. How many of you have done coffee creamer fireballs before? Oh, excellent. You can tell me how to do this. Thank you very much. Here's your show. Oh, we tried, yeah, that's what we said too. Haven't done with creamer. All right, so we're going to talk about dust fireballs, essentially. Now, I'm going to apologize. My back's killing me already, so I will be sitting down here in a little bit. But this should be a fun one. I don't know if I can live up to what Bill Corbett did with the gas balls, but we're going to do our best here with this. I got some good examples, some good videos of just stuff that we've done with my crew. Nope, no, not that one. We want this video. Shouldn't have to. Yeah, remind me tomorrow. I don't care. What? No. Oh, sure, of course. Remind me tomorrow. Let's see if I can replay this. I apologize. I'm using a different computer than I'd planned on because I failed to plan, and it still wants me to remind. Yeah, I don't care about your 3-minute update. Okay, let's try this again. This is for a 4th of July show. Yeah, it came off a little bit wonky there, it looks like, and I can tell you exactly what happened. We didn't have enough load in that one, and so what you have is powder getting bunched up, and then it comes back down. It looks like a comet coming back to the ground. You're going to see that again in a video a little bit later. All right, come on, video. Brian, fix my problems. There we go. So we're going to bring the boom and we're going to avoid all doom, right? That's the whole point, is we want to bring that nice, beautiful fireball with the orange color without the issues. We're going to talk a little bit about how you might go about doing that. That's literally what they look like, sans the handles. I'm going to tell you later, remove the handles. Clearly, we did not do that here, so I'm already a hypocrite. I will also tell you, we're going to fight this the whole time, aren't we? I am not an expert. We've just tinkered a lot. We learned about these in probably 2003, and ever since then we've been doing a few different things, picked up a few different things. When they said, hey, we need classes, I said, I'll give it a shot. Wow, this is why I like my Apple. That won't let me do that either. Yes, it's B. I know it's B. You know it's me too. I don't care. There you go. Well, I've tried. I want to get you out early if I can. Here's the thing we've learned. Always have an open mind to learning. Always be willing to learn new skills. There are people out there that have done smaller shows than I have, that I've learned from. There's people out there that have done bigger shows that I've learned from. Everybody offers something incredible. Everybody offers something useful. Some people offer things that are completely worthless. You just have to figure out which one's which. Stupid thing. Yeah. All right, what time's good for you guys? Midnight? I won't open this thing again until, If it pops back up, we'll deal with it. Okay. All right. Now, how many of you have seen this shot up here on the top left or the bottom left? A lot of people, so these are from, is it Worldwide Technology Raceway, whatever, outside of St. Louis? A lot of people saw that. This shot right here, that made the Super Bowl commercial this year, okay, for Indy Racing League. And everyone saw it and said, oh, those are great gas mines. Look at those gas mines. Not a single one of them was gas. Every last one of them was creamer. And in fact, the guys that shot this were at the J&M booth Trent Farr from Mopiro, and then Kevin Wishmeyer, the short little guy. We like to call him short. That's who's behind this thing. In fact, he was supposed to send me videos. Trent was going to show me video from the backside of this thing that he took, and unfortunately, we just didn't quite get that done. How many of you have been to PGI and seen them do the train wreck, where they have the fireballs come together? Yep. That's Ray Garris and Roger Downing out of Iowa, all coffee creamer. And with them, no Cobra. They use a nail board and wire. It's crazy. Yeah, they drag a nail across the end, that's how they make it go. It's crazy. Oh, they're old school. Oop. There we go. What we are creating with a fireball is a dust explosion, as I take my first back break, rest. For those of you that know anything about grain bins, if you get too much dust in there and you get a spark with the right mixture of oxygen, bad things happen. I heard a story from my dad one time. He's a retired state trooper that got sent down to a place for a grain bin explosion. The explosion, the rapid expansion, I guess they called it, was so powerful, it took the, 6-foot slab on top? 6-foot slab of concrete that was on top of this thing, lifted it up and moved it off center. So we're not talking about like, oh, hey, just cute little stuff. I mean, it is. But when in the right proportions, it's big, and obviously very big. Down here, that's what you're looking at, is just a dust explosion. The top right picture, I couldn't find the one I wanted. This is Bay Valley Foods, now Treehouse Foods, soon to be nothing because they're about to go out of business in the town where I live. It's actually my source for coffee creamer and the source for most of the coffee creamer that pyros are using across the country. Unfortunately, they're shutting down the plant here in about 3 months. They had a dust explosion in there. And when I say a dust explosion, I mean that cooling tower, the tall part up there. That part bowed out. It hit so darn hard. It bowed the walls out. I can't use my laser. That makes me mad. Okay, there we go. So, coffee creamer. Believe it or not, I planned this for the comedy of the whole thing. That was the whole, no. Trust me, there's better ways to do it than that. Okay, what time? How does 11:04 p.m. work for you guys? Does that work? Okay, all right. Well, I'm already picking a time. Leave me alone. Well, I tried that, but didn't like that. Now leave me alone, darn it. Okay. When's the part where we start blowing stuff up? Oh, my Lord. 11:04, when I blow up the laptop, that's right. Sorry. I apologize, folks. I thought I had a pretty good plan on this, and it turns out I didn't. But I will blow some stuff up for you here, sort of. I'll burn some stuff if I can get the slide to change. I don't know what your... Okay, here we go. So, basic science. Small mass, large surface area, it's the same concept as kindling with a fire, right? Anything that's really small but has a lot of surface area burns fast. That's why we light the twigs on fire first instead of the logs. It doesn't generally work very well. If you put this stuff in a clump, it's not going to burn. But if I spread it out, you can see what it's doing there. Now, if I were to get a better handful of it, what?
I'm not vacuuming.
That's fine. Get a better handful of this, and it should make a better fireball than that. If I destroy your lighter, I apologize. No, come on.
Nope. Not one.
Yeah, got a little bit. Not as much as I wanted. That's fine. Nice and sticky. Sticky. Okay. Anyway, you get the point. If you have a nice campfire and throw that on there, it's going to flare up like you can't do that. Anybody ever done that? I was talking to a guy who did that accidentally earlier today. He goes, yeah, I got a hold of the coffee creamer, and we were at Boy Scout camp, and I just threw some in the fire just 'cause. And it flared up like, who got the gasoline? And it was just the coffee creamer. Yes, that's the stuff that you're eating and putting in your coffee. Exactly, it's great for a lot of things. There's a story, if we have time, I'll tell you at the end about a time where somebody got a little confused about what it was. Dust to dust. Does not matter what type of dust you're using. Coffee creamer is great because it's got high fat content, but you need dust, okay? So coffee creamer will work. Fine sawdust, really fine sawdust kind of works. We've used it, it's not great. Any farmers out there, anybody who have access to bees wings? That stuff works pretty well, actually, especially if you need a lower temp for some reason. So we're going to talk about a little bit about putting stars. So like if you harvest stars out of a shell, you can put those into, basically make a mine out of the fireball as well. If you use bees wings, they don't burn as hot. If you use the other stuff, it burns so hot, it'll burn the stars up real fast. The bees wings puts it up, but it doesn't burn them up so fast, you get that nice mine effect out of it. Okay? There you go, got a nice big old fireball. Now, what kind of coffee creamer, what kind of stuff do you need? Real clear, cheap. This stuff is not cheap in the stores, right? So you gotta find a source. For me, it's always been Bay Valley Foods. Unfortunately, that source is drying up. I could buy it for 5 cents a pound, floor sweeps. $2.50 for a 50-pound bag. Now, for those of you that have done this before and used this stuff, you know how cheap that truly is. And truthfully, since it was in my hometown, they would just give me pretty much all I wanted because they knew I was going to use it for something, either for a class when I was teaching something at school or for the town celebration. And yeah, here, how much you need? It's 200 pounds too much? Heck no, you want more? Here's 250 pounds, have it. All bagged up, ready to go. It's good to make relations, right? Relationship building is key. Okay? Obviously, you want the high fat content. Can you use calf milk replacer instead? Yes, you can, but don't use the low fat version. Use the high fat version, like me. That's a joke, people. It's okay to laugh. I'm a fat ass. I know it. I know what I am. I'm not afraid of it. Would I make a good fireball? Probably. I don't know. Anyway, the higher the fat content, the brighter it's going to burn. Now, I will be the first to tell you, gasoline is going to probably have a more robust, deeper reddish orange fireball, but there's certain aspects about using gasoline that can be a little tough, especially if you cannot afford to have any kind of fire on the ground. I can tell you right now, with Cremora or any kind of dust stuff, when it goes up, it's going to burn. If it comes back down on fire, that's the end of it. Because, as we said, this stuff doesn't work unless it's spread out a little bit. If I take a pile of that stuff, put that lighter up against it, it's just going to toast it. And I'm going to have some toasty and eventually burnt milk is what it's going to be. Okay? So there are applications for this that are really, really nice, particularly if you can't afford to have a fire. Now, I'm not going to say there's not any residue. There is. We've left all kinds of stuff and very slippery. It could be a little slick around the buckets after they're done. And there was even one time we had done this and ended up getting a phone call from a lady who was walking her dog the day after the show through the shoot site, was very upset because her dog ate components from the fireworks show and was very upset that she was going to have to take the dog to the vet, thought it was going to kill the dog. And I didn't field the call. The guy that did said, well, give me an idea of where you were. And they said where they were. And he said, what was it? Can you tell me? What was this white powdery substance? Oh, okay, yeah, no, that was just coffee creamer. That shouldn't be a problem. She was, well, I don't know what she was, coffee creamer? Coffee creamer's not so bad. What are you doing with coffee creamer on a fireworks site? Stole your story, sorry, Dad. Anyway. I will say this, if you are able to get floor sweeps, there are a few places out there that do offer it. Consider screening it first for liability's sake, okay? If you're getting straight floor sweeps, sometimes there's some wood chunks in there because it is literally stuff they swept off the floor, all right? So consider screening it, or just at least pay attention when you're pouring it out of the bag or whatever the container is, so you're not putting chunks of whatever in the air. That's not good for liability. Nobody likes that. including the coffee creamer companies, which is a good time to say this about that being this. If you're able to find a producer, a manufacturer of creamer or calf milk replacer or any of this stuff, and they're willing to, they've got it, make sure you build a good relationship with them, because a lot of times they don't just give it out to just anybody, you know what I mean? If you can kind of tell them and explain to them what you're going to do and how you're going to do it in a safe manner, because it's like anything. We live in a very litigious society. Everybody wants to sue, and they are afraid of that as well. The company that I had stopped doing the stuff for a while because their lawyers said, and their insurance company said, well, you're going to have to screen that stuff first. They said, well, that beats the purpose because that's expensive for us to have to go and screen all that stuff. So we almost lost our source, and then it got a little bit better. But just be aware that you might have to grease the wheels a little bit before they just open it up. Usually it's not like going to the wholesaler where, oh, you got this paperwork? Go ahead. Or, oh, hey, you want consumer stuff? Go ahead. They're a little bit more picky about it. Just, not every time, but just be aware of that. All right, so where do you get it? Like I said, Treehouse Foods in New Hampton, Iowa. It's literally 200 yards from where I work, but they're closing down at the end of July, so I don't know what to say about that one. There is another Treehouse Foods in Wayland, Michigan, I believe, that makes this stuff. I don't know if they do floor sweeps. I've never talked to them about it, but it's worth a shot. And then Pecatonica, Illinois, I guess they've got some stuff there. If there's Nestle's a good place to start. I think Carnation is a Nestle product. You can kind of Google it and just see where they are. Sometimes it takes a little research, but you'll find it. What's that? They're a big Nestle plant, right, but I don't think they do that here because I checked, but yes, exactly. Let's just all walk over and say, hey, where do you guys make this stuff? We could use some. Then load up your pickups as hard as, stack them up. One thing I will tell you, though, if you do get it in bulk and you store it, humidity, unlike the fireworks, humidity not terrible on the fireworks, not great, but not terrible. Humidity with this stuff will clump it up like you can't believe. So make sure you keep it in a fairly temperature-controlled room. The upstairs of my garage was not a good choice, I found out. We had chunks everywhere, and it did not work. So what are you going to need? As you can see, there's a bucket there with this guy. You need a 5-gallon pail. Take the handle off. If your bucket blows apart, that handle becomes a very, very big projectile. And again, litigious society, we don't want to get anybody sued. So if you can mitigate that by taking the handle right off of it, just take it right off. We used to use 13-gallon, cheap 13-gallon white trash bags. And there's a story behind that I'm not going to get into because it takes too long to tell, but that's what we used to use. What I was told just recently, and completely proved it here in a little bit, they're singing my song out there. No, not the police. I work in EMS a little bit too, so, Q siren, or whatever, sorry, distracted, ADD. Anybody else work in emergency services in here? Nice. We all do, yeah. That's why we're here, dang it. So anyway, what was I talking about? No. You want the thinnest plastic sack you can find, and I had a guy say, well, we use grocery sacks. You should use grocery sacks. And I thought, yeah, God, I don't know. Seems a little small. We tried them because it's the only thing I had left. Best decision I ever made. We will not go back from using anything other than a grocery sack when we do these. The problem with anything that's too thick, the powder burns, but if it doesn't burn it completely through, that's where you remember on that first one you saw the stuff fall off to the side? What happens typically is the bag gets stuck in the air, so it keeps it all compact and it doesn't let it expand out, and that's when you get that stuff that falls off to the side and comes back down. And that's why the bags, I won't even typically fold them over anymore if I can help it. Now, if there's rain, it's a little different. But if I don't have to fold them over, I keep as much of that clear as I possibly can. A salad bowl or a mixing bowl. You'll see what we're talking about here in just a little bit with the diagram. That thing is really, really nice for helping to get everything projected up in the air. That's what we ultimately want. Quick match is optional. You'll see what I'm talking about. MJG connectors, or MJG initiators work. E-match will work with the way we do it. some would say preferred method is to take and run quick match down into the barrel, or not into the barrel, but into the bucket, into the black powder charge on the bottom, and then hook your e-mash to that. I think that's probably the right way to do it. I'm not saying that's the way I do it. I don't know, but what we do, it works. The only reason I say that is with the quick match, if you run that down in there, if you have to pull it out, you reduce the amount of friction that you could potentially have that would set off bare powder. Whereas we all know that with an electronic match or an MJG initiator, friction couldn't feasibly set those off. So just something to think about that way.
Also, in theory, help it ignite better because more of it would be exposed.
Not necessarily. I've never, famous words in pyro. We've never had issues with failure of ignition unless it's been a bad match. So, and that's really probably the only time you really, well, yeah. That's about the only time we've ever had any problems with ignition. Is a bad match, or usually it's a bad connection at the board or at the module. This is a quick drawing, not my drawing. This is the guys from PGI. He called it Cremora because I don't know why he called it Cremora. It's Cremora, whatever. But to zoom in on this a little bit, and he likes to use Walmart bags, he said there, because they're very, very thin, because everything with is thin. And so you're using a Walmart bag, and underneath that, you're going to have a black powder charge. He puts his inside of a sandwich bag and lays it flat in the bottom. We just dump it right on in to the bottom of the bowl. Either or is fine, it will work. This is probably a little easier if you were to have to pull something out, or if you had to disassemble it for some reason, but it really doesn't matter. As long as you get that spread out on the bottom just a little bit. 2FA black powder is going to be your best bet. We've learned, just like Bill Corbett said yesterday, if you have to use anything other than 2FA, just a little bit of titanium helps to keep enough heat in there to get everything lit. And I'll show you some examples of that in a little bit. Here's the bottom of that page. Again, the black powder charge goes into the salad bowl goes into the bucket, and I don't think it takes too much imagination to realize what that salad bowl, that mixing bowl is doing. It's basically directing all that force up instead of out into the sides of your bucket. We blow enough buckets up anyway, even with the mixing bowls, so I wouldn't even want to try it without one. Now, I do know that Skylighter, they put out a version or how to do this. They don't use a mixing bowl, so it can be done, but they also drill a hole in the bottom of the bucket. I'm not a huge fan of that, and they were using Visco. You can use Visco, like you can use any ignition thing. Like it's going to work as long as you're safe in terms of if you're going to have to light it. I wouldn't light it by hand. I don't trust a fuse that much, but I mean, in theory, you could put a whole mess of Visco in there if you really wanted to. Electronic ignition is the way to go, though. Everybody get the picture they wanted off of this? Anybody else need it? Need the first part? I got the whole thing there, which you can't hardly see because it's too small. Okay. So this is what it ends up looking like. Sans the handle. Ignore the handles that we didn't take off. This was at a racetrack we were doing. I'll tell you what, just like in NASCAR, if you do anything with the dirt tracks and you pop a couple of these off on a parade lap, boy, do they love that. That gets those guys absolutely fired up. Need proper space, obviously. You still need 125 feet of distance, but they do wonders. Basic formula, exact science, as you can see. 3/4 a cup of 2FA or 4FA black powder, and as I said, it's exact, about 3/4 a cup. Yeah, not exactly rocket science. We use a measuring cup. I know that Bill, he uses, they weigh it out, and when I do the gas mines, I weigh it out as well, but when we're doing this, we just use a measuring cup, 3/4 a cup. We were using a half cup. We found out that wasn't enough. Yeah, you need a little bit more. So about 3/4 a cup. If you overfill it, it'll blow everything up and you won't get a good fire through it. If you underfill it, it'll shoot everything up, but it won't spread it out enough. You're going to get a weak fireball and just going to kind of look like, no, I can't, never mind. I was trying to think of an example I could use, but they were all inappropriate, and it can't be inappropriate in public, so. The bucket, you don't want to overfill either. You only need about a half full bucket of coffee creamer. That grocery sack is actually about the right size. If you get that almost full or 3/4 of the way full, that's about the right size. Again, if you overload it, that's just more weight that powder has to push, and it can't disperse it all. So in order to get it, don't overfill. That's the big key. Again, correct power is what we're looking for. About the right amount of black powder and about the right amount of Cremora. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's got to be close, right? So I've got some examples for you. Hopefully this plays.
Shrapnel. One.
Whoa!
That's a good one.
My son was a little bit excited. He's 14, and he hasn't got to do a lot on site with us yet. So we'll take a look at that again. This one we actually thought was overpowered originally, but it wasn't too bad. Whoa!
That's a good one.
You can see how it rolled out of there. We shot the top out of it just because everything went up with it, but that one rolled pretty decently. All right. This one's a little bit underpowered. We needed more black powder than what we had for the creamer.
One. Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
That came up and...
Yep, Evan, he's absolutely right. That came up and went down. Unfortunately, with that one, it, we got a little bit of something out of it, but it didn't disperse the stuff, and then it turned into that rocket comet.
That came up and...
But again, the one thing I like to notice about that, when it hit the ground, that didn't splatter out and we had fire everywhere like napalm. It hit the ground and it was done. Now, we had a mess, all kinds of mess on the ground, and thank God we were in a cornfield, so who cares? It was fertilizer for him. Yeah, yep. It didn't have enough power to spread it out. And it's possible the bag was in the way as well. So this one's overpowered, too much BP for the amount of creamer there. Again, you can't get it all spread out so it won't light everything. And if you overpower it, you can blow your buckets. And I think we did on this one. Oh yeah, we blew the bucket here. Whoa. And you can see we just didn't get the fireball. It shot everything up, but it just never really spread. It just shot flame through the middle, and that's all we really got out of it. So unfortunately, overpowered. Yeah, you're going to get some white powder in the air. You get a little smoke look, but definitely. Again, your liner matters. We swore by those 13-gallon trash bags for 20 years, and I will not go back to those. I'm going to grocery sacks from now on. And like I said, I ran out, had to use the grocery sacks, and absolutely was the way to go. As you can see, thinner, better. For measuring purposes, even better. This is what it looked like. I've got some side-by-sides later, but this is
One. Wait.
You can see as it came out, it spread out. That fireball was much more robust as it came out. Right about there. Lost a little powder as it rolled up, but got a good fireball out of the bucket. Can you add stars? Yes, you can add stars. I pulled some stars out of 2 3-inch shells is what these are. Honestly, it probably would have worked better if I'd used larger diameter shells because the stars are bigger, or if you roll your own stars, or if you have access to stars, that's a way to go ahead and do that. A little bit bigger is better. Obviously, you don't want them so big that they're going to go up and not burn out before they come down, but if they're too small, they just burn up too darn fast. Oh, I didn't put that one in here. I thought I had that one. I do have one. It didn't work out very well, but as the black powder we used was not quite right. Again, if you're using anything other than 2FA, you might consider using just a little bit of titanium for heat. 2FA works pretty darn well for the most part. Sometimes we'll toss a little in anyway if you want that spark effect coming out of there. But anything other than 2FA, definitely toss in a little bit of titanium. And it doesn't really matter, like Bill said yesterday, it doesn't really matter what titanium mesh it is. Just a pinch in there, a healthy pinch really helps. Let's see, here we go. That was a little bit underpowered. You could see the stuff come back down. But that one, even underpowered, had enough heat to actually do something with it. It didn't look quite as nice as we were hoping. Certainly not as nice as the ones at the racetrack, right? All right. Oh, here's the mine.
2, 1. That's going to create a fireball.
That's kind of cool.
We underpowered that one way too much, and as you can see, the stars never really got going, and the rest of the fireball was, I've got the guy that actually taught us does a really nice job with it. If you decide to try that and put some stars in it, you don't have to do anything special. Just lay them right on top. Don't mix them down in the middle or anything like that. Just lay them right on top, and they'll go up. Okay? On top of the creamer. Yep, right on top of the creamer. No, I do not tie the bag, because I don't want that to potentially hold stuff in and clump up. When you do that, you'll get a nice little glob, and it's a mess. So, sometimes the thing does stupid things. I think we blew a bucket. I think this is where we blew the bucket. That one blew apart. You can see the bucket, if you look down here, yeah, blew the side right. I meant to bring the bucket along, and then I forgot. I was going to have it sitting up here for you guys. So sometimes stupid things happen with it, like anything in fireworks, but that's just the nature of the beast. Not enough heat. And that's where the titanium would have come in really handy. You can see how it just shot up and burnt out real fast. And you can see that big clump I'm talking about. If that would have lit, I would have had a nice little comet coming back to the ground, which I think happens on this one. Yeah, comets are a single shot thing. Not here. That one made me laugh, I'm not gonna lie. I laughed. It's funny. But again, the thing I like about that is if you're in a spot where you cannot afford to have a fire on the ground, that hit the ground, it went out instantaneously. I didn't have to worry about putting it out or anything. Like it was just done. Oh, what else do I have here for you? Clearly that didn't show up. And finally, gas versus creamer. Whoa. Left is gas, right is the creamer. So you can see the difference. Like I said, you can get a little more rolling, robust flame with the gas. On the right, they told me that the creamer I had wasn't quite the stuff they would normally, that most people would want. Usually it's going to be a little bit more red than that, but that's kind of the difference you're going to get, just in the way that it rolls out. Just a few things of some of our stuff. So this is one we did at at my local show. I think that's 4 of them there. The one on the far left didn't quite get up right away, but the other 3 obviously did real well, and that made a hell of a picture. Come on, there we go. This is the same shoot from a different, well, not the same shoot site, different show from a different perspective. 2 fireballs that we shot right there. Those ones turned out pretty well. We didn't tell people they were coming. We had all kinds of people texting. One of my buddies who's a paramedic texted me. He's like, "You guys okay?" I said, "Yeah, we're fine." "Was that supposed to happen?" "Yeah." "I was getting ready to run over there." I said, "Yeah, you're good. We're fine." The worst, the worst one we ever had, we had a cake box that lit up, as they do, right? Everybody has cakes that residual burn. And so it lit up, and we needed a little bit more than the watering can that we had because we were shooting 1-3 for that show. And so they were bigger 1-3 cakes. And so I called the fire guy that was out there, said, "Hey, can you come over?" I said, "We just need a little bit of water to put these things down." And I like the guy. He's great. But he didn't think this through, and he turned on the lights and the sirens to get up there. And not like just to mess with us, but because there was a chance to turn on the lights and the sirens. I'm like, come on, man. All of our phones on the shoot site blew up from all of our wives saying, "What's wrong? What happened? What happened? What happened?" And I let Billy know that don't do that again. And he didn't. He learned. Oh, what else do we have? Oh, come on. There we go. That was the fireballs that you just saw in the picture. Again, we had a little bit of a clump come back down. So here's a good one. This is the pyro train wreck I was talking about with Downing and Garris. Iowa Pyrotechnics Association, they do it there. They've done it at PGI as well. This is 2018. Again, that was all coffee creamer and done with a nail board. I may have another one for you here. Yep, here's the 2014 one they did. And I think I've got one more, actually. Yep, 2009, they did it. This was in Mason City as well, PGI. So see, you can have lots of fun with coffee creamer. You don't just have to burn up the gas to make fun stuff happen. That's the materials they use to do the train. Now, supposedly they tried it with Cobra. I'm sure there's a way to do it. They did not have as much success with it, but they also were pretty new to Cobra. I'm sure there's people out here in this audience that could figure that out and figure out the timing on it pretty darn well. But I'll give you a chance to get a picture if you need that of the materials you need. And you wouldn't. What's that? Oh, I don't have a zoom in. I'll probably put this thing out somewhere publicly for everybody. So if you don't follow the Pyro Talk Facebook page, I encourage that. I also encourage you to listen to the show too, but I'll probably have this out on the Pyro Talk page for you at some point and make it public for everybody. Okay, so we shoot for J&M displays. So what we're doing, it is typically under the guise of J&M displays. These things are really, really cool. They are not for public purchase, so the only way to get them is to shoot for J&M displays, just so you know. But that is a fireball in a box. And that thing comes ready-made with all the materials you need. You've got the cardboard tube on the right. The salad bowl is plastic. You've got the coffee creamer pre-measured. You've got the black powder and sawdust, which I don't know why they put the sawdust in there. I don't know. And then you've got your base that you put over the top of it, and there's instructions. That shot that they did at the racetrack, it was all of these. Every one of those was one of these. So you can order these. I forget how much they cost. Again, you can get them in your show if it's a J&M show. And the reason they do that, it's not because they are trying to say, oh, nobody else can have our fun stuff. It's because of insurance. They've gotten this specially cleared, and with insurance, it has to be done as a J&M thing. And that's straight from Super Dave. I asked him about it. In fact, Super Dave gave me these pictures.
Do they fire that with an E-match then, or does it come with a piece of quick match?
E-match. Well, it's quick match down in there, and then you hook the E-match on top of it. So that's what when we were talking about how that chunk of E-match that's sitting up there just comes out the top of it just runs up the side, yeah. You could do the same thing if you wanted to. Yep. So, works real slick. Oh, come on. Oh, there we go. That's what it looks like down inside there when it's low. Well, I guess it's preload, but it's what it would look like when it's loaded, ready to go.
You're not wrapping the bag around the top or anything else, it's on top.
It can, and with those ones, it certainly can. I will wrap the bag around the top usually because I'm afraid of that hangover. These ones I think work well enough that I don't think they have to worry about that. I'd have to ask Trent for sure. Now what are we doing? No. No, I would not like to extend my car's warranty. There we go. So that's Trent right there in the Wonder Bread shirt. He did a wonderful job with that. But yeah, this is that shot. Again, every one of them done with those buckets that we just saw, and very well done. They have an EX number, but only insured for display shows. They're assembled at the plant, as you can see, shipped out to the location, and this is the only company that we know of that has the capability to do that. So if you're looking for these in particular, come shoot for J&M.
Now, we can make them ourselves,
You absolutely can.
but are they considered display?
So that's a great question, and I actually talked to the ATF about that. And if you want to hear the exact answer from the guy, listen to Pyro Talk podcast. There's an episode, my second most listened to episode was a conversation with Mike, I can't think of his last name, with the ATF. So I asked about this, and I said, so is this considered 1.3, 1.4? He goes, not really anything. I said, okay. So do you have to have a manufacturing license for this? He goes, for this, we don't consider it manufacturing. I said, so no issues at all with the ATF? Possession of the black powder could be an issue. So, just remember, if you are in possession of the black powder, it's not for making fireballs. It's for shooting your grandpa's musket from years ago. We all know that answer, right? Yep. Where is it? I loaned it out to the neighbor. I haven't seen it for a couple weeks. And as long as you're shooting it for historical gun purposes and not for pyrotechnic or any blasting purposes, they'll send you up to 50 pounds. I didn't say that, but I heard it in a book somewhere. Anyway, legitimately, so it would be an issue if they knew it's the possession that they're more worried about than it is the manufacturing part.
And they only have the number just 1 year.
Correct. And so if you were to call Dave up and say, hey, I want to get a couple of those, he'd be like, okay, here's the paperwork to become an employee. Sorry, but I like to tell you about him anyway. If you're a display company, maybe he'll do something with you, I don't know. But just for someone who's just picking up for backyard use, I doubt it's probably going to happen, just full disclosure on that. But like I said, if you're looking to do a couple shows a year professionally anyway, he can set you up that way. That's the way around that. Yeah, go ahead.
So you never have done like a ratio, 3/4 cup of black powder to 16 cups of creamer?
No, we haven't been that scientific. Sorry. Yeah.
I mean, when they're doing these packages, surely they've got
Yeah, and I probably should have asked him about that.
creamer and a certain amount of black powder.
And now thinking about it, I probably should have asked about that. Would have been a good decision. I didn't think, yeah, that's on me. I forgot to ask him what their ratio was.
Maybe you ought to ask them to put on the firework.
I can. Sure.
Could you scale it down to 2.5 gallon bucket?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know exactly what the ratio for black powder would be. I'd have to work on that. That's another thing I could work on. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've done it. We did one out of a mug that was this tall once. It had a little curve in the bottom. The mug was about this tall. And we shot it out of that once. It was only about this big around. So yeah, you can scale them to whatever you need them to be. Just a matter of how much powder you're going to use. Yeah.
Have you ever used the walnut powder?
I haven't. I forgot to mention that. That's one thing that Bill Corbett told me about. It is available, I think, in Illinois somewhere. I forget where else it is. Maybe Kentucky as well.
Out of California.
You get out of California? Okay. Walnut powder, walnut flour.
It's called glue fill.
Yep.
It's, it would be, an alternate name for it, but it's just walnut powder.
Yep. I forgot to put that in here, but yes, absolutely. We haven't used it, but I've seen it used. Works very well. Yep. Absolutely. I'm trying to think if I got anything else in here. Nope, that's all I got. Thank you. So, the big thing that we want you to do, obviously, grow your craft, bring the boom, and paint the sky. Are there any other questions that I can answer for anybody or make it up?
So on the drawing diagram, he's got it as a stainless steel bowl.
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying remove the metal from the bucket so it doesn't become a projectile.
Yeah, the bowl, if you're going to have issues with that, it's going to blow it straight into the ground typically. The other one is going to be up above where everything is going out, if that makes sense. I get what you're saying.
And is that stainless steel bowl typically reusable, or
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, we've got some that are 10 years old. Most of ours are 10 years old. Yep, absolutely. Anything else that I can, yeah. Yeah, I mean, depending on how well you do it, you can go anywhere between 40 feet tall, maybe 50. And if it's not as well put together, 25 feet. And then as far as diameter, it's hard to estimate. I mean, you know, some of it just depends on how the roll is, how well you get it to roll. But I mean, you can get it 40 feet in diameter sometimes.
How often do you have the bag come down?
More often than I'd like, but that's mostly that's a me thing, more so than the use of the coffee creamer thing, if that makes sense. Sometimes I just get too hasty on stuff.
Do you build it right before you start shooting? Because I remember when Roger,
Garris.
what is the guy who used to teach for?
Oh, Roger Downing. Oh, Roger Nurnberg.
Yes, Roger, you know, he told us about those.
Mhm.
And, he said that he always, you know, he built the thing with powder, but he wouldn't put the creamer in until right before he shot the show, so it would stay fluffed up. Did you do that?
Yeah, yes and no. Sometimes it depends on how busy things are, how technical the setup is. A lot of times the fireballs are towards the end of our setup, but we also like to eat supper before we eat because I ain't missing a meal. Let's be honest. So yeah, I mean, you don't want it to settle too much. I wouldn't do it 3 days ahead of time, but I think you've probably got a good 2 hours before you have to worry about any of that.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
that, kit that J&M has,
Mm-hmm.
was that just a hollow tube, no end?
No, there's a bottom on it. There's a bottom.
Does it have to have a bottom, or just do like a concrete floor,
I would have a bottom on it
or what, just to hold it?
just to keep everything together. Yeah, I would highly advise a bottom. One thing I have not done, I haven't tried to shoot it out of like a 6-inch stainless steel mortar. I'm sure it would work, to be honest with you. I've never tried it, but in fact, I know somebody who has. It works. We just haven't done it ourselves. Ice cream container?
Well, the 5-gallon.
Oh, yeah, the big ones, like, yeah, the bulk ones. Yes, that's essentially what that is. Yep. Yeah, like a plastic ice cream container, I don't know if I'd trust that, that probably wouldn't have quite the strength I want. Feed buckets are great. Anything else I can answer for you? Yeah, go ahead.
How bad does the humidity affect the shove?
If you're loading in humidity, that's not going to be an issue. Sometimes you don't feel the heat quite as well if it's too humid. We've done some where the air around it, that humidity around it will suck up that heat energy, so the crowd doesn't quite feel the heat like you want them to. But as far as performance, as long as it's fluffed up, it's not going to be a problem. The problem is going to be if you store it for an entire summer in the humidity, it's probably going to clump up in your bags. Yeah, you can sift it. Yep.
Speaking of crowd feeling the heat, what's the safe distance?
I like to go with at least 125 feet. Yep. I've been closer when we've shot them and had to turn my face because it's hot. I saw another hand in the back. Go ahead.
Yeah, when you put the Cobra creamer in the Walmart bag, are you double tying it, or how do you?
Typically, no. Typically, when Yep, just right down in the bowl, and then you can I would never tie it, because it's not going to pull that apart. You might lay it over. I like to just leave it open just to make sure, but that's, yep. Yep. Yeah.
The bag is just basically turn it to slug. The source so it doesn't like fly off.
Well, it's just, so number one, it doesn't leak around your bowl, and number two, it also helps with a little bit of a lift. So some people put a paper plate in the bottom of that to help lift everything up. The bag does the same thing, and it burns off a lot quicker and easier.
If you use the commercial coffee filters,
You could,
they're about, basically this big around, they'll set down in that bucket.
absolutely, you could. Yeah, there's no perfect science to this. This is the basics of how we do it. There are ways to modify that I think would work. Go ahead.
Yeah, where if you have any feel for wind speed issues, I did want some wind kind of carries maybe before it really got.
Yeah, I would say 20-ish or below, you're okay. 20 to 25, yeah, anything over that, you're probably not going to get the performance you want. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it looked great as it got into the pine trees and lit those on fire. Then we had a really big fireball. Not that we ever did that. Well, we didn't burn the trees down, but we did singe it. Any other questions? Otherwise, I can let you out early. All right, folks. Well, I appreciate your time today. I expected only about 3 or 4 people because I'm like, no one cares about Cremora fireballs. So honestly, you've all made my day having this many people here. And I don't have enough business cards on me, but if you go to the Pyro Talk Facebook page, you can find me. You can message me there, or I can get it to you here. Or pyrotalkpod@gmail.com. Come straight to me. And then in about an hour, we're going to be in here with the expert panel. There's another thing you can come on. That's going to be a great show with a bunch of really good people. So a little plug for that. But I'll be here for a little bit if you've got any questions or if there's anything else I can do for you. But hey, feel free to listen to the podcast. Feel free to contact me if there's anything I can do. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I'll return your lighter. I won't be that guy.